But what we were going to start with is I'm going to take you through some of the really basic stuff, which, to be fair, quite a few of you will probably have already got on top of this, especially if you've been running it for 70 students already, Richard. And then Richard is going to take you through what he's been doing the last couple of days to run our courses online for all our different groups of students, and the different ways in which Zoom education can make that a bit easier. So at the moment, the faculty has allocated licenses. I think it's basically 3 per department. And I believe the idea is that these licenses will be available for use throughout the department on sort of a shared basis if people want to use the specific functions on the education platform. But I'll leave that for your sort of heads of department to decide and allocate. But on that note, you might want to make your password sort of a generic one that you're happy to share that isn't linked to other accounts. Duncan, you've got a hand raised.
Well, would we then need to coordinate so that only one person is using it with large groups at the same time?
Yeah, I believe so. So each department should have 3 licenses, which I think it's probably worth looking at with timetabling to check if there are clashes. Obviously, if people want to just do the shorter meetings of 40 minutes without the full functionality of the education, then they can use a Zoom basic license. But yes, it is something that needs to be managed between departments to make sure if licenses are being shared amongst colleagues that people know when they can and can't use it.
So we need to come up with a system for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who your head of department is, Duncan, but
no,
it might...
Debbie,
it might be worth having a chat to Debbie about the best way you guys manage that amongst your programs. Okay, so for those of you who haven't done it already, there is a Zoom app which you can download onto your machine, and that is probably the best way to manage Zoom if you're going to be using it regularly. I'm going to share my screen with you so I can show you exactly how to get that and what it looks like. So let's do that. Now, can everybody see my screen, which is basically currently set to the Zoom homepage?
Yeah.
Excellent. So in order to get the app, it's very straightforward. The website is zoom.us, and this is the homepage. You just need to scroll down to the bottom of the page, and under the download list, select the meetings client. And then you download here. I know that if you're using a Windows 10 machine with BU, a BU Windows 10 machine, that you might not be able to download the client directly onto your machine, in which case you would need to use the web app, which isn't a problem. You can, I'm signed into Zoom here on my account, and you can launch meetings from within the Zoom website. It's not a problem. But if you're on a earlier version of Windows, or you're using a Mac, or you can do it on your iPad or iPhone, basically there's whatever you're on, it will put the correct version there. So when you download, it will download the version for you. Once that's been downloaded, you'll obviously need to run the process and launch the system onto your machine. But once it's completed, it should look like this. I'm just going to minimize you all. Oh. So can you see the Zoom app that's open on my screen now?
Yeah.
Excellent. So this is the basic version of the app. And I think one of the key things we need to go through first of all is the settings on here, because there are various different settings that will make this work really well for you. And when you go open the settings on here, there's some very generic settings. So if you've got a really technical home setup and you've got dual monitors, you can use those. You can select sort of basic functionality here. But what we want to do is we want to click on the link here to view more settings, which will open the settings tab up in the internet browser. So I'm just going to close that. And this is where you've got all the different options to run your meetings. Now, it's worth having a look through this because you might have slightly different preferences to what I've set mine as, but there are some key ones that I want to run through with you that you might find really helpful. Obviously, you can at the moment, I've got host video and participant video on to start. If you're doing a class with, quite a lot of students, you might want to have participants video turned off because of bandwidth issues. You can select your audio type. So I've got audio type enabled for both telephone and computer, which means that people can use their audio on their PC or their laptop, like most of us are doing now. Or with telephone, it means people can dial in if they're unable to access a laptop or computer. This might not be appropriate for your lectures, but it might be an option you want if you're doing team or staff meetings, the ability for someone just to phone in rather than having to join via the Zoom platform or app. I've got selected that participants can join before the host gets there. So I think, Mehdi, you might have joined this meeting today before I arrived.
Yeah, might be.
And I think that's quite useful for students so that they know they're in, if they want to test it out early, they can join, and then as soon as you arrive, they'll see you. These I haven't got selected. I'm letting I'm having a generic meeting ID. I don't particularly need it to be my personal one. I want anyone to be able to join, so we've got turned off the authentication, people needing passwords to join. I have, just as a safety, I've left the password, an embedded password in the meeting links on, but hopefully they should never need a password anyway. And I've selected an upcoming meeting reminder. So 10 minutes before this meeting was due to start, I got a flag up on my laptop in front of me to tell me it was about to start. And that's sort of all the generic stuff around scheduling a meeting. The basic meeting functions are, I don't want encryption for the stuff I'm doing. I do want people to be able to chat, and I've enabled private chat as well. So if people want to send messages, they can do so privately. So what that means on the chat function is, can you all see my Zoom client in front of you? If we go to the chat function here, I can change everybody to an individual. So I could select Joe, and if I sent a message, it would just go to Joe. Or if I select everyone, it will go to you all. And that might be useful if one person's having particular issues or is raising a concern. I've not got my chats to be saved. You might want that. And I've also turned off the sound of participants joining and leaving. I think this is really important if you've, particularly if someone's got a bad internet connection and they're sort of dropping in and out, that could be really disruptive. I've enabled the file transfer function. So that means you could share a file in the chat. So if you wanted to send a PDF out to your class or some other file for them to access during your session, you can do that within the Zoom platform by selecting file in the chat area and then selecting one from your desktop or any other location on your computer. We've also got feedback to Zoom, so that's just their efficiency. And I've enabled a co-host. So what that means is I've selected Richard as my co-host for this meeting, which he has access to all the controls around managing participants, putting people into rooms and conducting polls. So if you're doing a shared lecture or shared seminars, you can select other staff members to be your co-host and they can have the full functionality. So I think that's a good one to have on. Polling is also really useful. And that sort of for the more interactive elements of your seminars. So that gives you the option to conduct a poll. So I could add a question to which you would then need to respond, which might be quite useful in a seminar situation to engage your students. And then I've enabled show Zoom windows during screen share. You might want to turn this off. I've enabled this so that you can see my Zoom client and everything whilst we're doing this training session. But if you don't want your students to be able to see that when you're doing a screen share, you might not want to have that on, because normally there would be no need for them to see it. But it was the only way we could get you to see all the functionality today. We've enabled screen sharing so that I can share my screen with you, and you could also share your screens with me if you wanted to. Annotation and whiteboard and remote control are all really useful features to have on, and Richard will show you a bit more about the whiteboard functionality later. But if you have annotation and remote control on, it means that your students could add to your whiteboard. So if you asked someone to come and, move some pieces around, you would be able to give them control of the whiteboard and they could add to it as well. So we've allowed that to be turned on. Oh, sorry, did someone have a question there? Nope. Okay. And this one you probably want to have turned off, which is allow removed participants to rejoin. So if you have someone who is being disruptive during the session and you want to remove them from the Zoom chat, you can do that under the Manage Participants tab. So I could hover over one of you and select more, and there's the ability to remove. Hopefully none of you will need to do this, but if you want to, you can remove someone and they won't be able to rejoin the session unless you enable that functionality there.
That will be Mark Rodolfo, maybe making sure that he's not, causing trouble there on the chat,
No single comment.
Well, I'll let you remove who you want, Lois.
Lander.
Breakout rooms. This is another key functionality that we think you should have on, and Richard will demo this shortly. But this is the ability to split your meeting into smaller subgroups. So if you had a class of 30 and you wanted to divide them into 6 groups of 5, you can do that within Zoom, and then you can go, they will be in their isolated groups of 5 in Zoom to have a chat, and you can move between those rooms, and Richard will explain more on that. But it's obviously a really useful tool if you want to actually sort of provide the seminar experience and have the students do a bit of group work or have a conversation, which obviously isn't really feasible when you've got a large number of participants in the meeting. So that's a key one that is worth having turned on. There are obviously lots of different functionality here. I don't think anyone's going to have captioning available or language interpretation. I mean, if that's something you're prepared to do and offer, feel free to have them turned on. And then this is the fun bit that Richard and Duncan are taking advantage of, which is the virtual background. So you can upload any image to the virtual background within the Zoom software. So you can be sat on a sunny beach, or you can be in outer space, whatever you choose. But it's quite useful if, you know, because all of us are going to be working from home. So if you're in, say, your kitchen and it's less than clean and you want to pop up a background behind you to look a bit more professional, that's a great way to do it. These are all other elements that I've currently got turned off because I don't think they're really necessary for, or I can't see the benefit of using them. So I don't know why you would particularly need stereo sound or attention tracking. I mean, Richard and I were saying earlier, maybe if you were dealing with 13-year-olds, you might have your attention tracking on, but hopefully our university students will be paying attention and not playing games while having the Zoom app fired up. Waiting room is one area I suggest you have turned off. If you've got the waiting room function turned on, it means you need to approve everyone to join your meeting. You have to actually admit them. So I accidentally did this for a team meeting we had, and it meant whenever anyone had to join, I then had to admit them so they could actually see me and participate in the meeting, which is fine when it was our team meeting of 6. But if you're doing a class for 30, you don't want to have to individually admit everyone. So if I was you, I would have the waiting room turned off. It means they will just be able to come into the meeting, and if you're not there, they'll just wait for you to join. I've also enabled the show a join from your browser link. This is another key one. So this means that people, when they get the meeting request, won't have to have the Zoom app or client on their machine. They will just be able to load it up in Chrome, Safari, Microsoft Edge, whatever website browser they use, and they'll be able to enter the meeting that way, which I imagine some of you have probably done today. I've currently got live streaming meetings turned off because honestly, I'm not sure how that works. Rich and I were trying to figure it out earlier. We don't know if it means you could share them via Twitter or a streaming app, but I imagine for most of us, we'll only want the people we've invited to join our meetings. And then email notifications. This is really for you to set as your preference, what you want to be emailed about. I've basically only got turned on when a meeting is cancelled and when I'm scheduled as a host for a meeting. So those will come through to me. And the final section, you shouldn't have to make any changes there. This is your invitation email should automatically be set to the English language, and you shouldn't need to regenerate your authentication. At least I've not had to do that so far, so I think it's quite unlikely you will need to. So just to quickly summarize, there are 6 key elements of the settings that we feel are really important for you to use, and that is to turn off your waiting rooms, to turn on the breakout room function, to turn on the polling and the annotation and whiteboard functionalities, and have the join from a web browser link enabled. Everything else is really for you to have a play around with and decide what you think is best. Okay, has anyone got any questions about the settings I've just run through? Good. Okay, well, what I am going to do is I'm just going to see if I can switch over so Richard can be the key host to run through breakout rooms, and if not, I will load that up for us here. Bear with me 1 second. Right, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen with you whilst we switch over. Okay, Richard, I've now made you the host, so hopefully you have the breakout room functionality.
Right. Can you all now see my Okay.
Every time I spoke, about a minute later, my question would go to her, and she'd answer, at which time I'd answer.
Can you all now see my Zoom?
There's a lot of background noise, Richard.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe I need to. Maybe because you changed. Right, I need to mute. Is that better or not?
No.
I'm trying to see who is still. If you could just check, everyone could just check their own audio is muted. Lois is actually, maybe I can mute her. Mehdi, I need to mute you. Duncan, I need to mute you. Richard, I need to mute you. Anybody else? That's the one. Sure, Anita. Got it. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is just show you the. Somebody is having fun. Can you all see this homepage now, the one which Lauren showed you earlier on?
Yes.
Okay, good. At the very top, you'll see 4 options: home, chat, meetings, and contacts. Contacts is, if I just tip on that for a moment, now if you look to the left, you'll see directory and channels. Now, the directory is where all Bournemouth University Zoom accounts are. So go down to company directory, company contacts. That's everybody in Bournemouth University that currently has a signed up Zoom account. And what we actually have to do to make our lives easier is to get our students to join as company contacts. This time yesterday, there were 401 Bournemouth University Zoom contacts. Now there are 652. So we've gone up by 250 in less than 24 hours. And we'll obviously need to go up even more to cover all the different students. So what I did was I went on to Brightspace and I sent a message. If I can just quickly show that message to you. And just simply sent a message to any student who was going to be on our module. Okay. So the crisis and disaster management course we're currently going on, I sent them this message yesterday evening. Create Zoom account for future lectures on your postgraduate module. Now that we're delivering your module via Zoom, you need to sign up. So please sign up to Zoom using your Bournemouth University student email address. And it's really important they use the Bournemouth University one, because then they'll go into the company group. And then I just put the Zoom sign up link. And if you go on to Google and just type in sign up for Zoom, they'll show you the link. And I just copied it and placed it in there. And I just asked them, again, to get that done as quickly as possible, ready for the next lecture that they're going to have. So if you do that, that will then make sure that as many as possible of the students are signed up as Zoom users. So when you come back to the company contacts, you should find them. Now, that's the directory. That's, if you like, where company contacts is. That company contacts is where all the Bournemouth University students and staff should be. Now, to help you organize that, you turn to channels. And the channels is where you can create your organizational arrangements. So, for example, we have a unit, the Postgraduate Crisis and Disaster Management Unit, which we're running at the moment. We have an undergraduate unit here. And what you do is you create that unit simply by going to the plus sign up here and create a channel. And once you've created the channel, you give it a name and it sits in this little area here under all channels. And then all you do is within that channel, if you right click on your mouse, it invites you to invite others there. And then you can invite somebody else. And now this is, if you like, the whole nominal role of people. So if I wanted to ask Duncan Light to join, I click Duncan, he's now there. And if I press invite, Duncan will get an invitation to join that particular unit. So you basically work your way down, and it is, I'm afraid, a bit of a bore. It's taken me quite a bit of time to work my way through, you know, the list of all the names. But once you've done all that, you've then got your unit ready to go with all the names in it. And it means that you can single button chat with them, single button invite them to a meeting, a live meeting, or create a meeting and then just email it to them in the usual way via Brightspace. But having these units, I think, will help you organize. And you can see we've got one for our center, and Lauren's created one also for all of us here today, the business school, with the 14 members. So those are the channels, the directory and the channels. The directory, remember, is where all the Bournemouth University people are, but you can see here there's another one which says external, and you can add people who are outside of the university, maybe external speakers, and they can go in there. And that helps you to keep them all in one place. And then you allocate them to the channels. And the channels is where you then can quickly grab all the right people relevant to a particular subject area. And my suggestion is, if any of, if you are going to have a number of staff, obviously make sure all the staff who are going to be involved in some way with that particular channel are members. And then that channel automatically gets shared across the platform. So you can share your channels together. So any questions on contacts and channels? Is that fairly straightforward? So the other thing I wanted to quickly show you is meetings. To create a meeting. Again, very much like GoToMeetings and all these other things, you can see up top left, upcoming meetings. This is a meeting that we're going to be running. This is the first class I'm going to be doing on Monday. I haven't created the other ones yet. So to create a new one, I press the plus button again to schedule a meeting, and up comes the usual sort of format. And I give it a meeting name. So maybe lecture title. The date is there, so you can change the date and the time, the date from the start time to the finish time. And then if it's a recurring meeting, obviously you can choose that option, but these lectures, if they are recurring every Tuesday for the next 10 weeks or whatever, you could do that. The meeting ID, I tend to use generate automatically, and then I tend to switch off the meeting password. I tend to do that. The video host is on, participants is on, but as Lauren said earlier on, if you're going to have a lot of participants, then obviously switch the video off because it will maximize on the bandwidth. And here again, you've got telephone and computer audio, so I've got that on here. One thing here, you'll see it saying here, dial in from the United States. The default is to assume that you're phoning in from somewhere in America. Very simply, to edit it, click edit, go down to where it says United Kingdom, unclick United States, done. And that means when you send out the invitation, they not only have a link to come online using the internet and their computers, they can telephone using a simple UK telephone number. So they're only paying a UK national call. And then under calendar, you select which calendar you use. For most of you, I think you use Outlook. Lauren and I tend to use iCal. Some of you may use Google Calendar or whatever. So that means that this meeting will then automatically go into your calendar. We've already talked about the waiting room. My suggestion is you don't use the waiting room. It does cause problems. So you allow them to join before you arrive. You mute them on arrival. And you might also say, I want to automatically record the meeting so that anyone who doesn't come along to the meeting or to the lesson, you've automatically recorded it and it will be stored locally. And then if you want to see where it is, it will basically go to your user profile. It'll create a Zoom folder and it will be put in there. It's very easy to find. And then you press schedule and then your meeting is created.
Richard,
So,
Richard,
yes.
just quickly, can you just tell everyone why they can't click on in the cloud?
Oh, sorry, yes, thank you very much. The reason why we're not clicking in the cloud here is because then it would need to be stored in the cloud, and Bournemouth University, well, rightly, we've chosen not to pay for the in the cloud option because we'd be basically paying for cloud storage. So don't click in the cloud because we haven't got that facility. Click locally, it will store it onto your computer, and then all you need to do once we've recorded onto your computer is to take it off your computer, put it onto YouTube, and then put the link for that video onto your Brightspace in the usual way. So, although it'll be on your hard drive for a short time, take it off, stick it onto YouTube, and then you can delete the original. Thank you for that question. Good question. All right, so those are contacts and meetings. Now let me try and show you, if I can come back down to here, how we do the breakout rooms. Let's go into here. All right, now at the moment, we've got 15 participants, and hopefully you can see my little box at the bottom of my screen where it says manage 15 participants. Then to the right of it says share screen, then I have chat, record, and now I have breakout rooms here. Now when I click on this, it's okay that you've got 14 participants. What do you want to do with them? Well, I'm going to do, let me think, I'm going to divide you up into 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms. I can either do it automatically with 3 to 4 participants per room, or I can do it manually. And then when I do that, I can literally allocate names to particular rooms. But today, so that I'm not accused of being in any way of favoritism, I am going to create automatic breakout rooms. What's going to happen when I do this? You're all going to end up in rooms looking at each other. Stay in your rooms, happily chatting to each other, and I'll come in and make sure you're playing nicely. All right, so opening all rooms. Okay, just so you know, well, you don't really need to know, but Chris Baker-Bill is going in with Duncan Light and Richard Shipway. Breakout room 2 is going to cause us problems. Richard Ward, you're in with Paolo and Peter, and Lauren, you're with Joe and Andrew. Here we go, opening all rooms now.
Hi, Joe. You might need to unmute yourself. I think Richard muted us all.
Can you hear me or not?
There we go. There we go.
Yep, can hear both of you.
I can't see me because I'll undo the video, but when I had the video on it, the sound was cutting out my end, so it might be my computer actually.
Sure. I can see you.
Yeah, I've just put the camera on, but it seems to affect the quality of the audio.
It might be a bandwidth
okay?
issue sometimes.
Sorry?
Sometimes if the bandwidth is tight, if you have the camera on, it will just slow it all down. So in most cases, it is easier to have the camera off.
Yeah, it might be the bandwidth. It might be my PC, which it's not a whistles and bells one.
I think all of our technology is going to be tested over the next few weeks.
Yeah,
right.
This is pretty basic. I might be down to John Lewis tomorrow.
Mine doesn't allow me to do the virtual backgrounds. It's not got enough power, so I just have to have the back wall and the curtains behind me.
Yeah. Okay.
Lauren,
does it cut automatically when it hears a voice or something? I'm just wondering how it swaps the different video feed.
It'll put who's ever speaking in the largest, or you can, if you go up to the top right of the screen and select gallery view, it'll put us all in like 4 different panels. Richard's joined us now.
Okay, so everyone happy here?
Yes.
Good. Okay, that's room 3. And just quietly, each time I change room, I just basically hit the breakout rooms and choose a different room. So I'm just going to the last one now, room 4.
Wow.
If worth noting, if you're to tell students when you're in the breakout room, along the bottom panel is an ask for help question mark.
Okay.
If you, so you'll be able to see that. If you click that, that will ask the host, which would be you, to say, we need help, please come chat to us.
Brill. Okay. What
Right.
was
I've just turned my video off, by the way, because sound was cutting out again. Closing all rooms in 15 seconds. Okay.
So that'll will when this happens, it'll rejoin us back with the full group.
Okay.
Okay.
Leave now.
Okay, everyone back in the room. 7, another few more to come in. 8, now here they come.
Oh, this is so good.
Room 1 were arguing when I went in. They were having a real problem. Something to do with paying conditions. All right.
Richard,
Yeah.
could I ask one question?
Yeah.
How did you shut down the breakout rooms?
Okay. It's all done with the breakout rooms tab here, and it literally, I just
Which
where
we're
it says
not
breakout room 1, 2, 3, 4. It used to say join breakout 1, join breakout 2, and at the bottom it said close all rooms. All the options are within your breakout rooms tab. It was very, very simple.
Thank you.
And I'll be very honest with you. That is the first time we've done that with so many people. That was a bit of a test for us as well. Now, group 4 get the prize for having been the most explorative, because they actually did the next thing and shared the whiteboard. So let me show you that. Can you see now? I've pressed share screen. There's my screen share, but to the right of it, I can share my whiteboard or share a whiteboard. And then by sharing the whiteboard, we all can see that. Now, I think I'm right in saying that each of us can now add various bits and pieces. So you can create, for example, some text. And you can add, and then anybody else want to try and add something to that?
No.
Is there something you need to do to allow you to do that?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not currently letting me, Richard.
Sorry, what you need to do, can I just, maybe I can help here.
Please.
What you need to do is if you move your mouse up to the top of the screen, you will see a little green box that says you are viewing Richard Gordon's screen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
On the right-hand side of that, it says view options. If you click on that and then come down to annotate, it will open up the add things box.
And now this is going to turn into, this will be quite interesting to see what people come up with.
Oh, wow.
No, I haven't got annotate when I bring up that view options box.
I'm not also.
I haven't got it either.
No, I'm not getting it also.
Are you in web browser only?
Yes.
Yes.
That may be why.
Is everybody who's annotating using the Zoom client?
No, I'm on my PC, my web browser.
Oh, okay.
Just in a normal web browser.
I am too. I'm just on a normal web browser at the moment.
Oh, how bizarre.
Me too. I'm just on the web browser.
Interesting. It's saying Andrew Adams is controlling my screen. Interesting.
Well done, Andrew.
But he is controlling my screen. He's got control of my mouse. It's fascinating. Okay, let's see if I can.
You can give up remote control. I can give it up. There we are. I've given it up.
All right.
I can't
go
put
back.
the video on because I can't hear anything.
Having Andrew in charge of my screen made me feel quite wobbly. Okay, so I'm just making sure we've covered everything. We've done whiteboard. Recording sessions, we've covered that. Oh, no, we haven't actually. Let's go back in. So just to say, in terms of recording, top left, can you see the word recording and a red flashing light?
Yeah.
All right, at the start of your session, it'll just say record and it won't flash red. Click on that, it will start recording.
Mhm.
And then at the end of it, because when we created the meeting, it will automatically save. It will save, convert, and put itself in its little folder on your hard drive. You'll find it on your hard drive, and then you can simply put it onto the YouTube and give the link on Brightspace. I think that's everything we wanted to show you. Are there any questions that you want to ask? Bearing in mind, we're about 24 hours ahead of you.
Okay. Can I add one thing, which I find very useful? When it does save the recording, it saves it in 3 distinct, so it saves an audio file, a video file, and a video audio file. So it's great if, one of the problems that I've come up against in the last 24 hours is that some students, maybe they're in the United Arab Emirates and so on, can't actually get onto our browsers for some reason. They're not, they're blocked from being accessing. So we can email them the audio file direct with the PowerPoint, and they can then watch the PowerPoint along with the audio file if they weren't able to join the live classroom. It's just helpful.
It's very good.
Okay.
Thank you. That does raise a point actually that we did flag in certain countries like the UAE, Oman and China. Yes. They obviously block programs like Zoom and YouTube, etc. We found a lot of our students are using VPNs anyway, so they access via that route, but it is just something to bear in mind, and I think that's a really good solution, Richard.
Yeah.
One last thing you may be interested in, under share screen, remember we had these ones, we had desktop we've already shown, whiteboard. The other thing we played with very briefly today, you can actually connect your iPhone via, I'm not going to do it again, I did it this morning. It's not difficult. You can connect your iPhone and iPad via the Air display. So as if you were mirroring it. And then you can literally have your phone and go around, and everything that you're pointing your phone at will then appear on the screen as well. You can share that.
Wow.
Okay.
I was trying this out earlier, and can I just share with everybody? I think it's fantastic. Thank you for giving us the license and giving us the opportunity. But I was able to run a Kahoot with 80 students earlier. And they were able to, so I was able to share my Kahoot screen with them. If you don't mind, can I share it with you so I can show you what I did?
Yeah.
So if I can.
Quiz, Richard.
Yes, it's a quiz.
Can we take it?
You can take it if you want. I can show you how it worked for me, actually. So you should now be able to see my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your house could do with a little bit of doing up, apart from that.
It probably could, actually. So if I move this over so you can see this, and just go to my Kahoot. Bear with me just for 2 minutes whilst I said, obviously I wasn't realizing I was going to do this, but if I could just log in for a second. I'll give you a really easy Kahoot.
Religion.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I promise you, it's not that bad. So, if everybody's got their mobile phone, you can play if you like.
Hang on, I get my phone.
So there's a code there if you want to join in.
He's drowning.
Oh yeah.
It's online polling.
So you go to kahoot.it. So although we may be millions of miles away from each other or next door to each other. So Lauren's the first in.
Yes.
Well done, Lauren. There's Deb, there's Paolo.
What's the number, Duncan?
Mady, it's 1683245.
1683245.
Duncan's in.
Don't worry about me, Richard.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say I'll just move on because I don't want to waste everybody's time. But I just wanted to show everybody it can work, and actually, it's a really good tool. If I can start now without who we've got.
Who's Stinky Money?
So basically, You just run it as normal. So here's my quiz.
Come on.
10 questions.
So the questions are on the screen, and the options come up on your mobile. Well done, Paolo.
6,000 BC.
Got to be Iran.
So this obviously this accompanies my religion, gender, and sexuality lecture for food, culture, and travel. So it's not just a random quiz.
Abrahamic.
So I think I'll stop it there because I don't want to bore everybody to death. But
It's the highlight of my day.
what I really wanted to show was this is such a great interactive tool that you don't have to be set by confines. You can do whatever you like.
Yeah, that's really good.
Richard, is that I've never seen Kahoot before. Is that a free app that you're using, or have you got a subscription?
It's an absolutely free app, Richard, that you can use, and you can set it up for quizzes, you can set it up for polling, you can set it up for anything really.
So it's brilliant. It's really good. It's a fun.
I've used it before, Richard. I've used it before. It's Karen. It's really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic, Karen. I use it in every one of my the end of every one of my lectures in order to gauge how students have learned throughout the lecture.
Yeah, I've used it in training before I joined Bournemouth.
Right. Is everybody happy and looking forward to getting on with? I just tell you now, as for my final part, it's going through the list of names of your unit and adding them on, and chasing the students to register their names using their student email addresses, and that's the bit that's going to take a little bit of pushing. Having said that, within 1 hour of sending out the message, I had 20 responses, which is pretty good.
Obviously,
can we not just can we not just send them out a URL and let them join?
Yes, you can do that. Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, but what I'm just trying to do is to make it easier to know who they are, and but actually, when you come to the breakout rooms, you're allowing the computer to decide who goes where. Is actually as good as anything else. I was just trying to avoid an all boys group or an all girl group or whatever. But it's quite useful to have the channel if you want.
Yeah.
Lois, I don't know if you're still there, but if you are, oh, hello, Lois. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to get out of this little session before we bring it to a close?
No, it's really just the logistics of how. So I've got all these individuals who are now holding a license, and it's how do we then manage that so that the unit leaders can then use those licenses to do their teaching. And I also was a bit confused about how do we share that. So I think we all logged in with our university credentials. It's not a new registration, so you probably wouldn't share that with your colleagues.
It's your university email address that the license is linked to. So the emails of all the people you sent me, Lois, the license is attached to their email, but the password can be whatever you set it to. So if you've used your BU password, you can reset your password and make it a generic one like Zoom, and then a series of numbers or other digits. So you would feel more comfortable sharing that.
Okay.
So that might be a way to do it.
That's great. Yeah.
There is, I think of the people you gave me, there are a few who still haven't activated their licenses, but I will keep chasing them until it's active.
Do you want to let me know who they are so that I'm aware? Because if they're not going to be sort of engaging with it, then I'll give it to somebody else, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just obviously conscious that they only got sent them just maybe 24 hours ago, and I know everybody's got a lot going on trying to sort out logistics. So I appreciate they may not have had time to do it yet, but I think there's maybe 3 or 4 who haven't. So I'll chase those again today, and I'll let you know once everyone's active and online.
Thank you.
And then I guess, it probably needs to be done on a departmental or program basis, whatever's best.
Probably program basis, and then, although I gave the licenses to people that I thought would be engaged with it and would be able to. I'll have a think about it and send out some guidance later on.
Can I add a point? It's my understanding, Lauren and Lois and Richard, that if one of my colleagues, so if let's say Crispin came to me and said, look, I want to run a Zoom lecture, I would set up the meeting and put them in as a co-host.
Yeah.
Yes, and therefore, and then I would send out the link, and Crispin would be able to run the lecture.
Yeah, that would be a easy way to do it, especially if they know if you're happy to set up the meeting links for them. That's absolutely a really good way of doing it, Richard.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Sorry, it's Peter. In terms of using PowerPoint with this, is that just simply sharing the screen, or can you run a PowerPoint presentation within this app?
Absolutely. You just put on. I mean, Lauren, you are currently hosting at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. I can share my screen. So if I shared my screen with you, you would potentially have your PowerPoint up already, but you could open it up. My computer's probably going a bit slow because of all the Zoom hosting and recording. Yeah, it really is.
Do you want to? You're fine.
But then you could create. You would presumably, if you had your PowerPoint already open in a window before you started your Zoom meeting, when you click to share your screen, which is using this functionality here, it would automatically come up as either you could have your desktop, but it also shows the programs you've got open. So you wouldn't necessarily need to share your whole desktop. You could just share the PowerPoint program or the web browser program if you were doing a quiz on.
Can I just ask how that would work? Can I ask how that would work if you had a meeting with students and you wanted a student to put up, you had a group of students, let's say, and you wanted one of those to put up a PowerPoint, would it work in the same way?
Yeah, you should, if I end sharing my screen, you can request to share your own screen, I believe.
All right, okay.
If you want to give it a go, I can.
Share your screen, yeah. Okay.
So yes, you can basically the students can share their screens with you, and you could watch a presentation or see what they've got on their screen to share.
I've just,
Can I also
I was
add
just
it's-
opening PowerPoint, but it's taking it forever to open.
Can I just add, it's absolutely fantastic for using with Prezi just as much as it is with PowerPoint. Sharing Prezi through it, it's brilliant.
Good.
Just one more question. Richard mentioned earlier that we could upload the video to YouTube. Is there a way to just upload it straight to Brightspace? So if you don't want to use YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, you would just upload it in as if you were uploading any other audio or video file. That's straightforward. One thing I will say, and this was a recommendation given to me by somebody else, if you want to share a video as part of your presentation, Chris, I think you said this, Chris Baker-Beale has been using this as well. If you want to share a video, rather than embedding it into your PowerPoint and then pressing play, the lag will be quite irritating. So one simple thing to do is to go to the chat function and send a message to everybody in the room with the link to your YouTube video. They click on the link and they watch at their own thing. So they're doing a local streaming of the video. So you'll have multiple people watching multiple versions of it. They all mute while they watch this bit, and then they can come back to the meeting again. It's just it's a more effective way of watching the video.
Thank you.
Yes, Sorry, Peter, I've just seen your written question. Yeah, yes.
Yeah. No worries. You can ignore it now. Cheers. Thank you.
Just shows what a lousy lecturer I am. I didn't actually see the message coming up. Okay, but it's a really powerful tool, and we're pleased because, as you know, we also deal with students like you overseas, and in fact, we're all dealing with students overseas now. Some of our master students have returned back to their home countries, so it's going to become increasingly important to have this capability.
Yeah.
Lois, once again, thank you for allowing us to go ahead with this across the faculty, and we just hope you find this really helpful. We'll upload the video and send it to, we'll probably put it on YouTube and then send you a link, and you'll have that very shortly.
Thank you so much to you and Lauren as well, because it's a great opportunity for us to have a play with a tool that really, really works. So we appreciate your time today, especially actually spending some time with us to talk through everything.
No,
Here.
not at all.
Yeah.
When I'm back
Thank
in the
you.
Carib again, we'll have a cup of coffee and chat about it. Okay. All right. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Yeah. Bye.